In this lesson, we're going to go in depth into slope-intercept form. We're going to talk about how to write an equation if you're given the slope and intercept. We're going to talk about if you're given an equation, how do you find the slope and the y-intercept? We're going to look at if you're given a graph, how can you write the equation? And if you're given a word problem, how can you write the equation of the line? So first, given the slope and the y-intercept, write an equation. Linear equations are frequently written in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. You're only going to replace the m and the b with numbers. You might switch out the plus for a minus if the y-intercept is negative, but the y, the equal sign, and the x will remain the y, the equal sign, and the x when you are in your final answer. Okay, m is the slope, b is the y-intercept where the line crosses the y-axis. Given the slope and y-intercept of the line, write the equation in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to always write, when it says slope-intercept form, I'm going to write y equals mx plus b. That helps me remember the form if I write it every time I use it. And it also helps me remember that that's what I want my final answer in. It says the slope is 2, so I'm going to circle that and call it m because I know that's what it is. And it says the y-intercept is -1, so I'm going to call that b. And all you have to do is replace the y. Oh, you're not going to replace that with anything. The m you're going to replace with 2. The x is going to stay x. And I'm going to replace the b with a -1. So I'm going to change that plus to a minus since the y-intercept is negative. Second one, same thing. This is my slope, so this is m. This is my y-intercept, so this is b. Y equals -3x. This time it's a positive y-intercept, so I'm going to put +2. Now in math, we love to do something and then undo it. We learn to add and then we subtract. We learn to multiply and then we divide. So you learned how to write an equation given the slope and the y-intercept, and now we're going to go backwards. Here's the equation. Identify the slope, that's going to be my m, and the y-intercept, which is going to be my b. So notice it's already in that template, y equals mx plus b. So m is 4 and b is 2, positive. Same thing here, it's already in that format, y equals m is -3 and b this time is a -5. That minus is going to turn to a negative. It's not always going to be that easy where it's already in slope-intercept form. You might have to convert it to slope-intercept form, but we'll talk about that more later. I feel like I'm always saying that. We'll talk about that later. We are getting to things, I promise. Okay, this one says, given a graph, write an equation. So what is the rule here that connects the y's and the x's together? Well, so far, we're talking slope-intercept form. So let's write that down. Y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Those are the two pieces of information that we need to glean from this graph here in order to write the equation. So you know how to find the slope. You pick 2 points on the graph or on the line, and you do your run. 1, 2, 3, 4. Over your rise 1. You check that it is a positive slope, so your slope is 1/4. Rise over run. B is your y-intercept. That's where it crosses the y-axis. And that's 1, 2, 3. And then I just plug that information in like I did in the previous examples. M goes before the x, that's the coefficient of x. It's not the x, it's just the coefficient of x. And then 3 is your b, it will replace the b. That's my relationship between all my x's and y's. 1/4 of my x plus 3 is my y. Check this out right here real quick. This point right here is 4, 4. So 1/4 of 4 is 1 plus 3 is 4. How cool is that? Let's do this one real quick. This should be the relationship between that x and that y. This x and y should be a solution to this equation if we did it right. Man, I love algebra because I can check and see if I am right. Well, 1/4 of -4 is -1 plus 3. It is 2! Yay! See how cool that is? This is my answer because every pair of x's and y's makes this equation true. That's the relationship between x and y on this graph. Same thing, I need y equals mx plus b. I'm supposed to write an equation that matches this graph. So I need my slope and I need my y-intercept. So I take 2 points. My run is 2 and my rise is 1 and it's going down. So my slope is going to be -1/2. Rise over run. And then my y-intercept, that point is 0, 4. So 4 is my y-intercept. So this time the relationship between the x's and y's is 1/2 of x, 1/2 times x, make it negative, and add 4, you'll get the y. All right, given a word problem, you should be able to write an equation that models this situation. So a couple of keywords for slope that trigger that number that they're talking about as slope is per and each. Anything that happens multiple times is going to be the slope. The keywords for y-intercept would be an initial value, an additional fee, a flat rate, anything that just happens once in the situation. You just have that initial amount and then you're going to add multiple things on top of it, or you're going to take multiple things away from it. That initial value is your y-intercept. The Lawrence Art Museum offers individual memberships for $49.50. Once someone has purchased an individual membership, he or she can go to the museum for just $5 per visit. In that previous slide, that said that was the slope, I think. It says write an equation that shows how the cost y depends on the number of visits x. So I know this is probably the slope, the coefficient of x. It's $5 per visit. So I would take 5 times 3 or 5 times 8 or 5 times 9, however many visits I went. That's how much it's going to cost me. Plus, I have that one-time individual membership of $49.50. I'm only paying for that one time, so that's the y-intercept. And then I'm paying $5 multiple times for every visit, per visit. And that's my total cost of y. Helen is sewing doll blankets to sell at a craft fair. She has 25 full spools of thread in her new sewing kit, and she needs 0.2 spools of thread for each doll blanket she sews. Write an equation that shows how the number of spools remaining, y, depends on the number of doll blankets she sews. So it's 0.2 for each, so that's going to be my slope, I know, times the number of doll blankets, which is x, okay? So if she sews 10 doll blankets, I have to take 10 times 0.2, and that's how many spools she will use. And she started out with 25. So is this going to be, is she adding thread every time that she sews a doll blanket, or is she subtracting every time that's right, she's subtracting it because it's going down. The amount of spool that she has left is going down. So that's my initial value, that's my y-intercept. It's going to start at 25 and then it's going to go down 0.2 spools per doll blanket. Do you see how to read that? And that's going to equal y, the number of spools she has remaining. So hopefully now you have a little bit better idea of slope-intercept form and how to write equations from graphs, and then maybe write some equations to model some word problems.